Hi and welcome. I'm Krista Embry with ReelTime Animal Rescue. We have another red alert, this time out of Virginia. Please welcome John Netzel from Peaceful Fields Animal Sanctuary. Welcome, John.
Hello, and thank you for having me. Glad to be
Well,
here.
thank you. We have a really important ritual coming up that I want you to elaborate on. This is kaporos, and it starts this coming Monday, the 18th, and it runs for an entire week. If you're unfamiliar, for our viewers, if you're unfamiliar with this holiday, this ritual, it is between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And John, I want you to take it from there and just explain to our viewers what this is all about.
Sure, happy to. So, kaporos or kaparot is a atonement ritual, a symbolic ritual, and it is purely a custom or a tradition. So, it is not anything that is overall required in and of itself as part of the Jewish faith. So, it is a custom and tradition that, as you mentioned, takes place starting in conjunction with Rosh Hashanah, which is the Jewish New Year, and goes up all the way up until the start of Yom Kippur, and is a symbolic means of atonement and removing sins, if you will, or wrongdoings that you may have committed for the year. That tradition ritual is generally done in one of two ways. There is the use of coins, which are waved overhead, and then the coins that are involved in the ritual then are donated and given to charity, to a charitable organization as a donation. The other form, which is going to be probably the bulk of our focus of our conversation here with this red alert, is the fact of chickens being used. That originally stems from a term for chicken that had some symbolic meaning because it was close and similar to another term. So that's how the birds came about. This came about, if I remember correctly, roughly in the Middle Ages, is when the use of chickens and birds became a tradition. So it's been around for a while, obviously, but in the grand scheme of things, obviously with the Jewish beliefs being many thousands of years old, it's relatively new. If you look at the complete scale of Judaism, it's a newer custom that has been adopted. For those who choose to use and exploit the birds, they are taken and waved overhead, similar just like the coins are and would be. Initially, similar to the coins, then what was supposed to happen is then after that was done, the birds were slaughtered, and then the dead birds were given to the poor for food to eat. So a few things with that. That doesn't really happen anymore for a whole host of reasons. One is this happens in such large capacity now that there really aren't the charitable organizations that could deal with that type of situation of that happening all at once. Another aspect is most charitable organizations, like you're talking about, homeless shelters, things of that nature. That's just not something that really how they operate as far as having freshly killed animals given to them for feeding of the hungry and the needy. So they aren't really it's not really something that they are interested in participating in because of that as well. So that while it may potentially go on here and there, that is the exception and not the rule. And the rule is that these chickens are discarded. They are thrown away. Many times, a lot of them are even tossed into garbage cans alive, and either they not are slaughtered at all and they're tossed into trash cans and trash bins to slowly, starve and die of dehydration, or they're still living and they slowly die. So a very long and very horrible death. Another issue with it is there are a whole host of health codes that this practice, especially in the urban areas where it primarily goes on, including like Brooklyn, New York, Lakewood, New Jersey, and other places. It's a complete violation of health codes to be having all these animals and slaughtering them, right out on the sidewalk and the public streets. But the city officials basically choose to look the other way because they don't want to be deemed, as the bad guy, basically. So they kind of let it go. Another issue or problem with it even starts before that. And that is, so to preface this part, as part of the Jewish faith, there is a very strong, important ideal of preventing the unnecessary cruelty to animals. That is a very prominent ideal in the Jewish faith, and this practice of chickens as kaporos completely violates that, and that is because, as we were talking about, we're looking at about 50,000 birds every year just in the United States that go through this horrible experience. So that's a lot of birds. And they are crammed and shoved in these small crates that are stacked up outside. And because of that, they're all smashed together. They can't move. They're completely exposed to the elements. So when it's happens during a time period and where it's hot and humid, they're suffering in the heat. If it happens during a time period when it's really cold, they're going to be freezing. In addition to that, the birds don't receive any food or water. So they are shoved in these crates and literally stacked on tractor trailers by the thousands. And so they are slowly starving to death and also suffering from dehydration for days before they even, experience the trauma of the ritual. And so with the ritual itself, they are frequently grabbed by their legs or their wings and swung overhead. And that causes massive physical trauma to them, in addition to the most emotional trauma, obviously, of suddenly going through an experience like that. So it's typically Cornish cross that are used. They are the birds that are used in the meat industry. Those birds are used because they're available in large numbers that are needed, and they're also cheap. And so because of that, of their large size, their wings are not designed to support the weight of their body, and their legs are not designed naturally to support the weight of their body by hanging by them. So they tend to suffer broken legs, broken wings, or their wings being dislocated, or also the muscles and the tendons of the breasts and the other areas of their body that support and control their wings are also torn and damaged by that act. And again, then they're waved overhead, and then they are either killed or simply just disposed and tossed alive into trash cans or trash bins and things of that nature.
John, just let me interrupt, because I know I
Yeah.
knew nothing about this ritual until you joined ReelTime and you told us about this, and it was quite alarming. And our platform is all about education and letting people understand that there are alternatives, and using coins is something that's very acceptable in this as well, like you said, that you can use
Yeah,
coins overhead instead of livestock, and the cruelty, just as you said, in the Jewish faith, the law, the written in the word to not abuse and be cruel to animals. There's a disconnect there, and I don't
correct.
understand how that is ignored or overlooked. So how many will actually survive this kind of ritual?
Unfortunately, it's going to be a relatively small number um, that are going to ultimately survive, because that's all going to be based on us and many, many other great individuals and organizations that are involved with the rescue effort of these. Unfortunately, legally, we are not able to get a hold of these birds until after they go through the experience. Um, and so that's why when we talk about them, whether in person at our tours and events here at the sanctuary, or online, or in situations like this, we refer to them always as kaporos survivors, because every single bird that's rescued has unfortunately gone through this experience, and many require lots of medical care.
And probably not even all of them can survive the trauma that has been induced in their little bodies. How long does it take for a recovery once you are able to find live ones and the ones that can make it, if you get them back to the sanctuary? How long is the recovery?
That's a great question. So it can vary. Um, it's usually going to be a little slow, because you're usually talking about tissue damage, muscle and ligament damage, in addition to structural, to skeletal bone damage as well. So those type of injuries usually take quite a while to heal, even with medical intervention, and having work and supervision being performed by veterinary staff. You're still talking, weeks at least. And then obviously on top of that, you have the emotional trauma of going through that experience, and how frightening and scary that can only be. It's even hard to imagine what these birds experience and what they go through. So they have both physical and emotional trauma that both need to be addressed. So it can be a really, really long road for recovery. And unfortunately, sometimes some just have suffered so much trauma that even with the best medical intervention and hospitalization, they just don't end up making it and surviving.
Well, at least they're with you, the ones that don't survive. At least they die in peace and not in a dumpster, overheated and dying of thirst and dehydration's the one that survived the trauma of
Right.
this. How do we go about educating people that this is not necessary any longer? It never was. You could always use coins, but how do we make that change?
Oh, that's a really, really fantastic question. So lots and lots of outreach and education, and persistence, and also understanding. So as we were talking about before, this is a tradition, and as we mentioned, coins are a complete and equal replacement for using birds. It's either one or the other. So it's not a step down in any form to use the coins. And it just seems like it's so much easier. You're not dealing with all these live animals. The coins can easily be donated to charitable organizations to provide good, which is a major focus of the high holidays and Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So it just seems to be a better option if you choose to participate in the tradition at all. Again, with being unnecessary, and many of the Jewish sages over the years have even had discussions in a lot of the religious writings about kind of talking and debating on how chickens as kaporos should not go on for a lot of various reasons. Some of them even say where the idea to do this came from was from outside influence, and so based on that, it shouldn't be a part of anything that is done. And then others take issue because of the unnecessary cruelty that's involved in it. When there are completely cruelty-free options that you can choose, why would you choose something that's cruel, especially with the theme of the holiday? It just seems to make no sense. So it's been a debate for a very long time, and like a lot of things, we're basically battling tradition and the notion, quote unquote, well, we've always done it this way, or we've, my family's done it this way for several generations, so why should we change? So those type of situations, I'm sure, as you know, can be tough to battle, and sometimes that is kind of used as a shield to kind of try to stop change. So we need to continually have great dialogue and not be afraid of the well, it's my tradition, or I've always done it that way, and not back away from that, but to be understanding and respectful of that, and to kind of meet the individuals a bit where they are and address their concerns and help them see on all the wonderful and great ways that we should change, because change is always good.
I think it is too. And one thing a question I have, when you mention coins, are there certain kinds of coins? I'm sorry, I'm ignorant on this. What kind of coins could be used to substitute for the livestock?
It could be anything, and of course that would change over the course of history and the course of time. So I'm sure obviously at some point in time it was probably gold or silver coins that were used, but it could be any type of coins, modern money as far as that goes.
Well, to me, that makes so much more sense. If you're going to donate to homeless shelters, if it's
right.
coins, why wouldn't that be a great substitute?
Exactly, right. And it's more beneficial and more helpful for them. And
exactly,
it's something they could use, as opposed to, like, if you pulled up with a truckload of money or a truckload of dead animals and said, which one would you rather have? They're going to choose the money, because there is more things they can do with that. And it can provide benefit for a long period of time than a pile of dead animals.
It's definitely a win-win, and versus the cruelty that's inflicted on these animals. Well, exactly. I want to also ask you, because you're ready to go out and you're ready to take this mission on and do the amazing work that you do with your other supporters. Will you be able to come back after kaporos is over and show us? Because I think people, unless they see, they don't know. Or it's tucked away. They might get this message and they'll hear the message, but unless you see what's actually going on, it doesn't compute. Do you know, to so many people? Would you be willing to do that, John?
Yeah, of course. Come
back and let us see the recovery. Let us see. Unfortunately, the one thing about real-time animal rescue, we are real. We don't doctor anything. What you see is real life rescue. And what you're going to be experiencing, John, is a lot of really graphic, horrific things. But you know what? That's how change comes. People have to be aware of what's truly going on all around them every day. And that's what we're all about, is lifting the veil of everything's not just this beautiful world of rescue and everything lives. And I wish it did. I would love to live like that, but it's not the truth. So we want to make a change. We want to make a difference. And education is the key to that. So if you would come back and bring us footage, show us the recovery process, let us witness this with you. And maybe
Yeah, you
next
bet.
year, we will see even more people using coins that can make a difference in someone's life.
Fantastic.
Before we leave, would you tell us a little bit about Peaceful Field Sanctuary? I think it is one of the most beautiful sanctuaries in America.
Oh, that's really kind. Thank you very much.
It's true.
So Peaceful Field Sanctuary, we are a 501c3 legal nonprofit charitable organization. We are a silver rated charity. We have been operating for over 10 years now. We are located in the state of Virginia, about 2 hours from DC and also about 2 hours from Baltimore in the Blue Ridge Mountains. Our mission and focus is to save the lives of animals in need and rescue them from cruelty, neglect, and abuse. And our mission also focuses on farmed animals. Right now, we have about 100 animals that are all rescues and all came from cruelty, neglect, and abuse and have prevented from being killed. And we have everybody from equine, cattle, pigs, sheep, goats, chickens, turkeys, and ducks. Of course, a bunch of these Cornish cross chickens, both that have been rescued from the meat industry. And we also have living kaporos survivors from years past that are hanging out that will here shortly have some new friends because we are getting poised and ready. As you mentioned, this unfortunately is about to start happening in literally just days. So we are geared up and ready to rescue and take in as many of these birds as we can.
One thing that I want to mention, and I think it's such a beautiful thing that you offer, is for people like me that can't come help you because I'm not close by, or I would be right out in the streets with you, John, to be able to support this mission. And it's basically we can support the survivors for kaporos, right? You have a
That's correct.
donation link, and we're going to
Yeah.
put that in this video. If someone wants to donate to this mission, helping these babies survive this horrific abuse, please make a donation. Every donation saves lives. And I always
Yeah.
say that
Yeah.
100% of all donations will go to Peaceful Field Sanctuary. The other thing I love on your website, and it's absolutely beautiful, if any of our viewers want a special gift for a birthday or an anniversary gift, and we all have so much stuff, right? We have so much stuff, but how can we make a difference instead of just buying another gift that might sit in a closet? We can make a donation to sponsor an animal, and you all will provide the photo of that baby and know that that is what we're sponsoring. And I think
Right.
it's absolutely beautiful that you have this ability to donate to your sanctuary to sponsor for the year.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
All the animals at the sanctuary can be sponsored, including kaporo survivors. So that is one of the sponsorship levels. So you are most welcome if you want to sponsor, a horse, a donkey, a cow, or goat or sheep. But if this issue and if this story really, really touched your heart to the degree like it does mine, I'm very passionate, as you know, about this issue. As being a longtime vegan and very involved with animal rights and being a religious Jew as well, this issue has been something that I've been really, really passionate and will continue always to fight and work towards until the day it ends. So if the story touches you, you can also sponsor the kaporo survivors, and your generosity and your gift will go to provide for their food and nutrition, for their very expensive medical care, and for their enrichment. So a lot of people are surprised, especially when they come. We get asked a lot by the public as far as who, as far as type or species of animal, are the most expensive to care for. Most people would assume it's the horses, the equine, and equine can be very expensive to care for. There's no question of that. But it's no contest. It's the birds. The
Wow.
birds far outweigh anybody else, and that's because birds, unfortunately, because of what we've done to them, because of the genetics and the breeding and the experiences they go through, are very medically needy. They are going into the doctors and avian hospitals all the time. And medical care for a bird isn't any more economical just because they're small, right? So a doctor visit for a chicken is the same as it would be, for a goat or a dog or anything like that.
But you would have had me on that. I would have definitely said a horse. I had a horse, so I know that how expensive they are.
Right. Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that. And I would think these kaporos survivors are going to have to be in quarantine because of the condition that they've been transferred to these streets. And yeah. So how long is the quarantine on something like that?
So the quarantine that they will be in is about 2 weeks. So we have a complete building that is our kaporos, chicken quarantine building. We have to be especially even more careful with it because the past couple of years there's been an avian influenza pandemic in the United States. H5N1 is what it's called. And so we have to be even more careful, more involved with biosecurity with any birds, especially with these kaporos survivors. And it's to such a large degree, this form of avian influenza. It's highly pathogenic, and it's a controlled disease in all 50 states, which means if a case is found on your property, the government shows up and euthanizes every bird on your property, regardless if they're sick or not.
Oh my
God. A lot of rescues have chosen, because obviously nobody wants to go through that experience. And there was a rescue a little over a year ago in the Northeast that unfortunately experienced that. And I just can't imagine how heartbreaking that'd have to be, right? So a lot of rescues have chosen, and I understand, to not take in birds because of that high risk. We've set up this building that's far away from any other birds and have a lot of biosecurity processes in place because there's no way, I just can't stop rescuing the kaporos survivors. Like it's not an option. So if we need to increase our biosecurity and have more processes and things in place, and which means, spending more money, then that's what we're going to do, because these birds are important and so are their lives. And we want to make sure we're always there for them to save them and give them a home. And that's what we're going to do.
You're amazing. Your team is amazing, John. And for all of our viewers, please think about supporting what John's doing for these kaporos survivors. We can sponsor just one. That would make a difference for that one and help John continue to do what he does best, and that's save lives. So please, we will have the donation link here. Please think about considering a donation today. And also go to ReelTime Animal Rescue. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell and never miss a red alert or a shout out. John, please come back next week after Kaporos is over and let us walk this walk with you. I think that's how we will truly make a change. It might be a slow start, but in 2-3 years, maybe we will see a huge difference. And that's the whole platform. That's what we're about.
That's right. Sounds amazing. Looking forward to it.
Wonderful. Thank you, John. Thank you for your time. And thank all of you for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.